Qué bueno que continúa con nosotros aquí en Noticias del Congreso, pues con la actividad legislativa y parlamentaria de nuestros representantes. Hace unos días, aquí en la Cámara de los Diputados, nos visitó el doctor Dani Rodrik, quien es especialista en temas económicos de la Universidad de Harvard, y él pues habló alrededor de las alternativas económicas frente al libre mercado, frente a la globalización, y pues precisamente nos acompaña en esta ocasión aquí en el estudio de Noticias del Congreso. Mr. Rodrik, thank you very much for these moments for the Congress Channel Mexico. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Let's start with a part of your work. You wrote in 1997 a great book about one question. Has globalization gone too far? You said in the moment. Nowadays, we observe by one side countries like United Kingdom in a Brexit, and in the other side countries as China, with a new example for open markets, free trade, and economic globalizations. Do you have a new answer for has globalization gone too far?
I think globalization has gone too far in some respect, has not gone too far in other respects.
Okay.
So I think in terms of financial globalization, in terms of regulatory harmonization, I think globalization has gone too far. In terms of labor mobility, I don't think globalization has gone far enough. I think, in fact, that's where most of the gains still are in terms of allowing workers to move from countries like Mexico to the United States. So my answer is a differentiated one. In some respects, I think we've gone too far. In some others, we have not.
We have to seek, the states should seek a mixed model to strengthen domestic marketing and domestic production, and at the same time open markets and mix it.
You know, economics is the science of trade-offs, and one thing that we learn about economics is, you know, that extreme solutions are never the right ones. So I think in terms of the question you're asking, what it means is that having completely free markets, letting the markets work on their own, or having completely free trade, you know, has not really worked for many countries. So I think the successful countries always behave strategically. They have strong, what I call productivist policies, that are designed to strengthen the real economy, just as they're trying to take advantage of world markets and globalization as well. So they'll sign trade deals, they'll enter the WTO as China did. At the same time, they'll diversify their economy and they'll build a base on which globalization can generate greater benefits. So it is a mixed strategy, avoiding the extremes. That's the key.
For the people in the old global world, for people, what is the best alternative about economics when you talk about economics?
Well, I think, you know, the best, there's no, I mean, there's, you know, there is a certain amount of diversity of views within economics. And I think sometimes we economists don't serve ourselves very well by presenting just one voice, speaking with one voice. And I think with respect to globalization, we committed that error that the economics profession appeared like they were the cheerleaders for a particular model of globalization, instead of you know, speaking more honestly about some of the downsides, some of the risks of, for example, financial mobility, I mean, financial globalization and financial crises, some of the adverse distributional effects. So I think, you know, if we as economists are, you know, speak with greater diversity of views and we expose our difference of opinion to the public, I think, in fact, there would be a better dialogue with the public, and I think, you know, economists would not lose their credibility the way that they did recently.
We are in the Congress, in the Mexican Congress. I have to ask you about the work of our lawmakers in Mexico. When they are working in debate about economic issues, all the time we saw ideologies and we saw the different points of view. What do you think is the best way to the lawmakers to think about people, to think about global economy, to take to make good laws and good decisions for the people at the end? I think is important.
I think the most important thing really is to stay away from ideological presuppositions. I think too much about economic policy is about free markets versus intervention. It's about globalization versus autarky. It's about having industrial policy or not having industrial policy. Those debates are not very productive. I think the key word, and I think for lawmakers and policymakers, the key word is pragmatism. It's what works.
Okay.
And we don't always know what works, and that means that we also have to be bold. We have to experiment. We're willing to try different things. And I think that's the key issue. I think in the Mexican context, there's a little bit too much focus on the external strategy. What's happening with NAFTA? Should we get more involved with Europe? And should we try to find Asian markets and so forth? I think time is now to also focus a little bit more on domestic integration, a little bit less on international integration, because I think the big lesson of NAFTA is that it did not work because it created two Mexicos. And I think it's time to now reintegrate those two Mexicos, and that's going to need to pay attention on domestic problems and a domestic development strategy, and not emphasizing so much the international strategy.
Okay, let's talk about the United States economy. With the new government in this moment, do you think it's going to start our evolution or involution with protective economic policies?
I don't think Trump's effects on trade policy are going to be that large. I think his bark will prove much worse than his bite eventually. I think that not much is going to happen on NAFTA. He's certainly not going to put up a wall. He's not going to put 45% tariffs on China. He's not going to throw away NAFTA. And I don't think, so for the good news from Mexico's perspective is that these threats are not going to be materialized. On the other hand, Trump does have to show that he's doing something. So there will be a lot of atmospherics, there will be a lot of show and tell, there will be some increased protectionism here and there in steel and sugar, aluminum.
Okay.
And so I think you have to be ready for those. But I don't really anticipate a big change on trade policy.
And about Latin American policy with the United States, what do you see? All Latin America.
I think it's very hard to know what American foreign policy is right now. I think it's up in the air. U.S. State Department is operating on a shoestring in terms of personnel right now. If they have a coherent Latin American policy, I just don't know it.
Okay. Thank you very much for these moments for the Congress Channel Mexico, Mr. Dani Rodrik.
Thank you
very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nosotros vamos a hacer una pausa y regresamos aquí a Noticias del Congreso para continuar con los temas que se debaten en nuestro Congreso Federal.